and welcome to Potato Shot Podcast right here on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. First and foremost, please click that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, smash the like button, follow us on our social media. It's running across the screen. And I'm joined here today with the one and only Shaun from his YouTube channel. The guy right there.
That guy right there.
That guy right there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's pull it up real quick. Please go there, follow his, subscribe to his channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll see all of his great groovy stuff too. But yeah, real quick, let's see. All right. What we're going to talk about today, and the reason I brought you over here was because it's something that is you were the one who brought it to my attention. There is a YouTube video, and it's called The Human History Movie from Spirit Science. I've got the link to all these articles to the YouTube channels are all in my description. So for anyone that's watching right now, but the thing about it, this talks about, it was a very interesting little documentary. It's 59 minutes or so.
Yeah, about that, right?
All right. But this past Thursday, as you know, or maybe you didn't know, I don't know, but the NASA, they landed a rover onto Mars. And so new stuff started to come out from there, new pictures, and they're doing all their little studies and all that good
Typical stuff.
Right. And we got so many people rushing to the forefront to get to Mars, to get back to Mars. And what was interesting about this is in the human history video, they talked about how Martians came from Mars to the planet Earth. And we're just going to go over it a little bit. This is almost going to be more of a review of what the video was.
Okay.
And just how it's bounced, if you found anything to be nonsense. If you remember, I tried to take some notes just because it was so much info going on, and then of course it's big words, and I know I'm going to just stumble over it.
Yeah. Okay.
But the funny thing is, all right, you got us going to Mars with the rover, and then you got Elon Musk and all these billionaires. We need to go colonize Mars, and at the same time in this video, it speaks about things like magnetic fields, the poles shifting, and we have information that's come out on Yahoo how did Neanderthals may have died because of the switch of the magnetic poles, the magnetic pole moving, and scientists are puzzled by this rapid movement. It's like 34 miles a year.
Are they surprised? Because I've heard to talk about the magnetic poles shifting before. Are they surprised that they're shifting, or were they surprised that they're shifting as rapidly as?
I guess it's as rapidly as it's doing.
Oh, okay.
When I read the CNN article, it was talking about it's going about 34 miles a year.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's in Siberia right now. So just to make sure everyone understands, North Pole, the physical location that's the location. The magnetic field is the thing that's created by the Earth's core.
Oh, okay.
And see, once again, when you watch this cartoon, which sadly I have to say it's a cartoon, you think this would be something more. I wish it was a little bit more, so it'd be.
You know what's interesting? Not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
No, it's like the thing with the cartoon, though. I mean, it would be nice to have, like, I guess depending on your taste of documentaries, it'd be nice to have like one that was, quote unquote, a little more serious with real life people. But to me, that the cartoon actually adds a certain entertainment value that keeps me hooked in.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
It pulls your attention, but it's done well enough that it does. But when you're watching it, the stuff that they speak about, they do give at the end of the video. They have the sources of the information they got. But when you watch it, stuff that's happening today has happened in the past. So that's the thing that really, I guess, boggles my mind when I see that scientists are like, we're confused by what's going on. Well, why are you confused? This has always happened.
Yeah.
Climate change happens. Global warming happens. It's not, We can pass every law we want. We can go and just live on wood and have no greenhouse gases. That's not going to stop anything. We're on a movement now. The things we can stop is dumping garbage into the sea.
We can control some aspects of pollution, which will help the environment. But as far as like climate change and the shifting of all this other stuff, you can't stop it.
Right. But there's absolutely nothing we can do. But so let's just go over this little documentary, and then we'll rate it too. Which I can tell you how I'm going to rate it, but we'll say that exciting for the exciting conclusion. I guess. Okay. So this starts at the end of, and I had to spell it out like phonetically. How is it? So you can say it.
I was about to say
it. Because, like I said, I'm going to stumble over it, but it's linear. So it's like Lanira.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it starts there and at the beginning of Atlantis. Now, how did you come across this video by chance?
How did I come across the video? Because it's been years.
It was several years ago. You told me about this.
What was I looking up? Hold on a second. I won't be thinking too long. Either it popped up in a notification, or I might have been looking up something. You know what? I can't recall. To be honest, I was.
Okay. I just didn't know if you remember the rabbit hole you might have been going down. But that's where this video starts about. And it talked about, we were studying the places like Atlantis, spirituality, and the ancient land.
Yeah.
And then World War I happened, and we got shifted. So basically, just to give a thing real quick, the idea is Martians came from Mars. They took over. We were more of a mental conscious state here. And since they were more aggressive on Mars, they did some damaging, because he did the Lucifer experiment we'll talk about. They come to the Earth, they take over, or they tried to take over, they got beat down. But because they continued on doing things and they're more aggressive, they pretty much started to take over.
Yeah.
And that's, once again, that looks like today's world. When you're looking around, people are going bonkers and crazy and throwing fits and stuff. And what are we doing? The people that are in charge aren't that powerful. There's not that many of them. There's more of us than it is of them.
Yeah.
Yet because I perceive and give you power, it's not even that I'm giving you. That's really, does that make sense? I give you, like I say, well, you're.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about The Substitute. Tom Berenger, Ernie Hudson, that one scene where he takes the paddle and he punches it and breaks it. He goes, "Power perceived is power achieved."
That's
so you have the perception of, you give the perception of power, you'll achieve the power.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we constantly, they've got $1 million, or they wear ties, so they must be the ones in charge, even though they have no idea. They're just they're trying to make you believe.
Yeah.
And but so you got that. It says the Kundalini, which is also a yoga. This chakra, everyone has like 7 chakras, I believe, and I can't remember what they are. But that goes up your spine.
Yeah.
And that's where your spirituality and meditation and stuff can be controlled, right there. So how much do you buy into this? And when you watched that video, how much were you buying into it? Or did you go, okay, you're just taking a grain for salt?
You know what? It was like, it wasn't one of those things to where I saw it and I was like, okay, the truth has been discovered. But there was enough in there that was, that, would I say take it with a grain of salt, or it wasn't a disbelief, but it wasn't a full-on, I believe. It was one of those things to where, okay, I'm accepting what I'm hearing, and I'm accepting the possibility.
Right. It's so much like, if you see, that's the thing with people ask me about the Bible, for instance.
Yeah.
And even though, I believe in an afterlife and a God and so forth. So I also understand that man has come along and made adjustments to it. So I have to take the Bible for what it says, but then also you're trying to decipher. Did they leave parts out that not, like, which we'll get into it. Like, there's a part here where Jesus, was up to 11 years old. He disappears for 18 years. He shows back up at 30 years old.
Yeah.
And no one knows. Well, according to this video, they know what happened to Jesus. But we'll get on to that in a minute. The Hebrews, they said, are from the future. And you use the left side of your brain for math. And the right side is for creativity, meditation.
Now, I do recall that. Let me see. I know that they would sit there and when they refer to things, they looked at things sort of like male and female, and it wasn't gender based like man and woman. It was more or less like male side was more aggressive. The female side was I can't remember what they said it was. Male side was more angular. Female side was more like if you're looking at shapes rounded off or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the way to think about that is, just it would be like, studying another language like Spanish and Italian, where they have like they have masculine, feminine, and neutral ways to explain things. Nothing to do with sex, but just
right.
And what else? I remember the Hebrews because they talked about the Hebrews a lot. They talked about the Hebrews. Did they mention something about the Hebrews? We'll probably get to this later though. When the Martians came down to Earth and they interacted with the Hebrew, or was it somebody else?
No, I believe they were interacting with Hebrews. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where, and then they talked about Mars, which this is what part was at war with the Lucifer experiment. When they said that the Martians came here, they couldn't get back, and that's a couple up here. But they couldn't get. If it said the Martians from Mars, they tried to take over, but the millions of here on Atlantis, they fought them back, and but the Martians couldn't be sent back. However, because the Merkaba, which is used at its full potentials, can do the impossible, change dimension to time travel through the universe. So that's how they got here. They didn't get into a rocket ship. They're able to bend the space-time.
Yeah, they sort of, it's almost like step through a portal.
Right. Yeah. And then they showed up here, but they weren't able to go back.
Now, in this video, because I don't want to jump ahead too much, but in this video, does it mention when they tried to build a Merkaba, but they did it wrong? They were talking about trying to build a synthetic one. And because I know that according to this, they built one, and was it on Atlantis that they built it, which caused it to sink? No, it's with the Bermuda Triangle is where the Merkaba ends up at. So anyway, they tried to build one, and they screwed it up, and they ended up, if I recall correctly, but you start reason, they ended up sinking Atlantis or sinking Island, and the Merkaba, anyway, it's sitting where the Bermuda Triangle is, and that's why things go crazy in the Bermuda Triangle,
right?
As a result of that thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's off the coast. Well, obviously, that's off the coast of Florida and South Carolina and things. But they've talked about planes just disappearing, and that's what happens is these. Which sucks. They just go into a different.
So what if they go?
I don't know. That'd be the interesting thing here. But this is one of them things where it makes you wonder once again. Why aren't we trying to figure stuff out like this? Obviously it's easier said than done, but is it easier said than done? Is it just because we've got the pineal gland, the third eye, they said was the size of the eyeball. Well, now it's the size, we've shrunk it down to the size of a raisin.
Oh.
And that's how you can, I don't know if you've ever tried to meditate. A few years ago, I was able to, I really feel like I was like able to sink in for a brief second, boom, in and out. And it was the weirdest thing. It's almost very much like doing, I've never done drugs, so I can't say that, well, it was just like doing mushrooms or whatever. Yeah. But I was having an issue and I was thinking about it real hard and I meditated about it. And I saw myself climb out my top of my head. While I was in I just got done doing yoga at a class, and we were in the I was going to say savasana, and that's at the end of the class, and you're just relaxing. And I almost was meditating there, but I saw almost like a figure break out at the top. It was the strangest thing. I know it sounds silly, but it was like I was able to climb out, and I looked at everything and went, okay, boom. And like that, it was out. But then I knew exactly what I needed to do. Of course, I didn't do it. So
of course, I know what I need to do, but I'm not going to do it.
Like life. Hey, you need to lose weight. Yeah, I got to lose weight. Well, what do you got to do? Eat right, exercise.
I'm going to go to the buffet real quick.
All right, let's go. You want to go get a dozen of donuts? or whatever the case might be. Everyone knows what to do. But let's see. Where was I at? Now, one of the things that the Martians did to turn the people from Atlantis was they started showing the left side inventions. Okay?
Yeah.
And what does that sound like to you? When I started hearing about that, and so instead of you going and meditating and things of that nature, trying to connect with the spiritual world and with your just fellow humans and the earth and so forth, you're getting stuck with these inventions. So what would you think that would be? I'll tell you what I think it is. The iPad, the iPhone, this computer. I've got sucked into that.
Yeah, stuff that just takes you away.
Yeah,
you get sucked into technology.
Right.
I mean,
that's something that brought my attention to it. It wasn't even because I had read before on in Reason magazine, they said something about when some board games were made, something like with chess or checkers or something. I know chess has been around for a long time, right?
Yeah.
However long it's been around, but they said that people worried about kids just sitting inside playing these board games. They weren't going to go outside. Now, we got video games that kids make millions of dollars on doing Twitch. And but doesn't that sound, but once again, now, granted, this is an easy thing you could probably write if this was a fantasy, but this is sounding very okay, well, it's making sense. It's giving me enough okay, it's sounding things,
Yeah, you get
it's okay, I see, there's stuff here going on. Now, Edgar Casey, he was the scientist, I guess, who said that the poles would shift. But that one character, and I can't remember, who would see the sun would rise on the west and fall on the east, go down on the east, and that rising sun is on the east. But then it would flip. He would see it go up on the east, go down on the west, then it goes up on the west, down. Well, it's the rising sun, so it comes up on the east for us, and then the west.
I'm sorry. I'm because did they say it was did they say it was some sort of shift in the poles or shift in the?
I thought they were saying it was a shift of the cycle of the Earth.
Well, it could have been
memory, because for obviously if we're seeing it come up this side, the magnetic.
Who was it? I'm too busy trying to figure out which character. I know it was Egyptian mythology.
Right.
One of those characters that would be looked at as an Egyptian god. Oh, but I can't think of it. I can't remember what the character was.
Okay.
I knew it had something to do with Egypt. One of those Egyptian characters from Egyptian mythology.
Okay.
Oh no, not Osiris. That's the dog, I think. Oh, well, it's been so long since I watched it, so I don't want to sit there and try to speculate.
Okay. That's your second time you've taken us down this road, and then you're just all right, I'm backing out of this. I should have just kept it to myself. See how many times you would do that. but
I'm gonna do it a few more times.
But he was the one who said it, so I wrote his name down just because I wanted to look more up on him and more of the stuff that he talked about. The monkeys and the sweet potatoes experiment. Australia showed a pic, and this is something that they talked about, where everyone being connected without having to talk, because they said in Australia and this, we'll go over the monkeys first, since I started with monkeys. They dropped sweet potatoes onto a island for these monkeys. They wanted the sweet potatoes, but it had sand all over it. And then one of the younger monkeys figured out, you go wash it off, you're able to eat it.
Yeah.
Then the monkeys on the other islands were able to also go in and eat.
Yeah, I've heard about that before.
So in turn, I thought that was a very interesting thing. But then they showed this Australian experiment, a picture with multiple faces hidden. You can see a lot, and then there's a whole bunch that were hidden. Then they went to England, and they only showed it in Britain, and they showed where every face was. They went back and showed a new group in Australia, and these people were able to see more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in turn, we're on this conscious. Have you ever heard of transcendental meditation by chance? This is something that came up here.
I've heard the term, but
transcendental meditation is this thought process. The Beatles made him famous. Maharishi, I can't remember his name. He was. That's the guy who brought it here to the States.
Oh, okay.
From my understanding, they say it's no religion. That this is just to stay. The idea, here, let's go through the idea real quick of transcendental meditation. You have a sea state, so it's real rough up. That's what's going on around you right now.
Okay.
So if for 2 times a day for 20 minutes, you go and you'll say like a mantra, which would be like Om, but whatever this guy gives you, this spiritual guru, then that's what you would go home. You don't tell nobody, and then for 20 minutes, you just go down, do the mantra twice a day, morning, whenever.
Yeah.
And according to them, it can solve world peace and all this stuff. And I thought, because I went over there and talked to this guy because I wanted to hear about it. And I was like, oh, it's cool. Well, if it solves world peace. But the problem was, when Jesus came here, or any other Buddha or Muhammad, they did not come here and go, all right, here's some really good ideas, but don't share them unless you get money for it.
Yeah.
And that's where I have my issues with transcendental meditation. You have to pay for it, which I understand. You just, it's almost like buying anything. If the people aren't donating, if people aren't doing, to keep an office open, you got to do different things. I understand that. But if it's honestly to God, if it's honestly did world peace, I say you share it with everybody right now.
Yeah. And
you get everybody meditating in it. Get us all on one page, and then we'll worry about the money.
Yeah.
Now some people say that this is a Hindu god, that they're giving the guide of a Hindu, and so forth, so on. So in turn, you're unable to. That's what that mantra is.
Yeah.
Because like you take fruit and a white handkerchief and all that stuff, and that's what you and then he'll give you the mantra.
Oh, okay.
But so in turn, we know we can connect with people, but I don't know how much we're really trying to connect with people, because you can't say Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. That just hate-filled social media. Or if I go to Instagram, I get to see some guy with 6-pack abs and I love David Goggins, but as Joe Rogan, the one guy was talking about, he was like, Goggins does 2.5 hours of stretching at night.
Yeah. And
Joe Rogan goes, you got to remember, David Goggins is a multimillionaire. He's not like me and you who's got to get up. Because if I did the David Goggins followed his routine, I'd have to run a marathon each day. Now, granted, you'll get better, so you're going to get faster. So 2.5 hours, easy.
Yeah.
Whatever other workout he does. Then to do a 2-hour stretch. So you're pretty much looking at 8 hours. Now, if you work an 8 to 10 hour job, now you're at 18 hours. Now you got 6 hours.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have shower time. So that's going to be a half hour at least. If
Well,
now work at 5 hours.
stretch in the shower.
Yeah. What are you stretching? So after that, you would have like 4 hours to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's you ignoring your family and friends and any other thing you do. So no hobbies, just run, stretch, work
Out.
That's it. That you would have no time. So you go insane. So unless you're a if you were a multimillionaire and you could not have to worry about getting up for 10 hours, going to that workplace for 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it might be, it would be. We could live that life.
Now, here's the thing that Joe Rogan needs to consider. And this is not me making excuses for David Goggins or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember, David Goggins was not always a multimillionaire. He developed that mentality before he became a multimillionaire.
But I think, correct. Did you have anything else?
Other than the fact that, David, there's something unhinged about the man.
Yes, you're right. But the thing was, he was working. Yeah. So in turn, if let's say me and you get on the David Goggins or if I or whatever get on the David Goggins plan, as long as you're working your way to, hey, I'm only going to sleep 5 hours a night or 4 hours a night, but I'm using the other time to expand Potato Shop Podcast. He was using it not only just to get exercise and stuff. He was expanding his stuff. He was expanding the brand. If you will. So he was hustling all the way around. So absolutely, you're right there. So in turn, you got to suffer at the beginning, and hopefully in the end, you'll be good to go.
And then Joe Rogan, he ain't exactly Mr. Poor Man himself either. If he really wanted to, he could do the exact same thing David Goggins did.
True. And
but anyway,
but yes,
sidetracking.
But no. Okay, so then let's go on, and then they go into the pyramids, and they talk about how the pyramids, and I've heard this before, how they line up with the stars. They were put together so precise that, what is it, like 200 men couldn't pull one of the stones.
Yeah. The whole controversy about the weight of the stones and how we couldn't move them. I can't. They're astonished how they were able to move the stones without any modern day equipment. Even if they did have modern day equipment, it would be hard for them to move them, hard for them to stack them because the stones aren't from that area.
Right.
And they were talking about the pyramids again, how they line up with Orion's belt, how they what was that one thing, the Fibonacci spiral, how they line up with the Fibonacci spiral. Somebody was telling me that there are other pyramid type structures that is in other parts of the world that lines up with the pyramids.
Right.
So there's something with the way they're lined up. The way they're like, it's just lined up with the pyramids in such a way that's very peculiar.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we got pyramids all over throughout the world.
Yeah.
So down there in Mayans and, and this, I believe if memory serves, they talked about how Mayans and the Atlantis, there's different levels of the Atlantis. And so everything, just so much. The thing was, they talk about how can the average man see we got it, like me and you and all of our other friends get together and try to move these stones.
Yeah.
But they talk about there being people who were 10 feet tall, 25 feet tall, and 35 feet tall.
Yeah.
So who's to say that the guy at 25 feet wasn't the one moving the bricks? And then they had the little tiny us, the guys our size, let's say, doing the little shoveling and climbing into the holes and stuff like that. Because they talk about on the Great Pyramid, the top is missing, and the top is in the bottom, is underneath it. That's about like a mile or two down, and it was like like a 2-mile block
Huh.
of different stuff. Paramount was going to record, and they got the agreement with Egypt, and Egypt was like, okay. And then at the last minute, they go, we want another $1 million or $2 million, I believe.
Yeah.
According to this, and Paramount said, piss off, and they left. And then, of course, people went down into this thing. It was a gold light. They couldn't get in there. They shot it with bullets, couldn't break it. And then somehow they were able to unhinge it or get it like let down. They were able to walk in and look around. And of course, there was no pictures taken, but
of course,
underneath there too is like a shield almost. And they talked about someone in Peru. The last time these Martians tried to take over was just a few years ago, back in the 90s or 80s. And this lady in Peru was able to gain consciousness of this stuff and brought the shield out and made all the Martians sick.
Oh, okay.
And they took off. They didn't try to come here to do whatever to us, to enslave us.
Yeah.
But it was some shield that's underneath this Great Pyramid, Now, I've heard that too, that there was somehow the pyramids had power.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, but they talked about how this is where I remember hearing about Egypt being lush rainforest, not a desert land like it is now.
Yeah.
And then Kentucky, as you know, had ice age, had ice like Antarctica. And then, of course, but when we talk about global warming, when we talk about climate change, whatever, we're not supposed to talk about that for some reason. And I don't understand why we don't have a discussion. Like, if we're going to talk about it, we need to see the entire cycle. Are we going through a cycle? Is it us? I get it. There's a lot of people on this planet, and that could cause heat. It's just like we had 30 people into this room. It's going to get hot real quick.
Yeah.
Or
you could look at it as this. If you go by the spirit science thing and the Martians and everything, it could be a situation why the reason why we don't talk about the full scope of climate change and all these things that happen, like with the shift of the poles and how it used to be an ice age here, but desert here and stuff, and this natural occurrences, you could look at it as maybe it's whoever it is on the Martian side is like saying we need to keep this stuff quiet so they don't figure out what it is they need to do on their spiritual side, so that way we could gain control that way. You follow what I'm saying?
No,
I mean that could be a situation.
Breaking down, taking away the spiritual side,
so
they can take over. And if you look back here, when they were showing us all their cool gadgets, that is where we started to give up us being able to communicate mentally and things to that nature.
Then they goes like, well, and like I say, they're saying like, don't pay attention to all the stuff that happened before. Just listen to what we say now. And we've got, and since we're quote unquote science based, I'm just going to say that now we're science based and we're gearing you more towards science and more away from spirituality and religion. So now it seems like we're giving you the perception that we're the authority and we know what we're talking about, but what they're really doing is, manipulating you so that they can gain power.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was kind of interesting. Then it talks about when the poles shift, it makes people crazy, and that's what we were talking about earlier, right before we started this. How you put magnets near insects, it will mess them up. It talks about how birds use magnetic field to fly south, fly north, wherever they need to go. Talks about how whales were beaching themselves because they were expecting water to be there.
Yeah.
But they kept on going for, so in turn, once again, it goes back to, in today's world, we're watching, if we're really having this shift in the magnetic field, we're going crazy and we don't know what's going on, but we really do know what's going on. We got to understand it might be a magnetic field that's twisted our head.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were saying one time. Someone said, because we're so much, what are we, 80% water?
Something like that, yeah.
So when we have a full moon, I know like at the nursing homes, they always say, oh, people go crazy over there when it's a full moon.
Yeah.
Because if we're having low tide, high tide, if it changes the water there, who's to say it's not changing the inside water with us being pulled? And then in turn, we're going nutso. But in reality is, we could explain it.
Yeah.
We would just have to try to control it that way.
Yeah.
So in turn, I guess the world's going crazy. It's the magnetic fields possibly, and that's something we got to look at. It said here, now this is to where, if you remember, it said pole shift goes through a void, and it lasts about 3 days. Now, my question is, they said God made the world in 3 days, and that's what everybody, how could the creator make this place in 7 days?
Yeah.
7 days, sorry. Well, what's 7 days to God?
Yeah.
What's 3 days to a pole shift? Down here, it said in the Yahoo, let's see, I'll pull it up real quick. Over here on Yahoo, it said it takes, right there. It said, example of a magnetic flip likely took place over a period of 1,000 years. That's a blip in the Earth's lifetime, but long enough to alter fate of the living planet. So that right there. So yeah, it says 3 days. Is that 3 days or is that 3,000 days?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even show it. Look at that. I didn't pull it up onto the screen. So this is the Yahoo talking about how it took 45,000 years ago. This climate killed the Neanderthals. But down here, let's go back to it real quick, and I'll just pull it up where I just spoke about right there. And that's showing that it's 1,000 years it took for it to flip. All right. So,
and
do you have any comment about that?
I'm sitting there thinking, because obviously this goes into another article you shared where you talk about the poles shifting to Russia, and it's moving like relatively rapidly, how it is. But we could have already been.
That's 34 miles a year.
34 miles a year. Now, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about another thing I saw a while back where they were talking about the Earth's magnetic field. Either it was the magnetic field or one of those fields around the Earth where it seems to be less than what it was before.
Yeah.
So for all we know, this shift could have been happening for quite a while now. And now that we're noticing it, it's like maybe it speeds up or slows down once it gets closer to where it's going to be at.
That's possible too.
Yeah, but anyway.
It might, how like a tractor trailer starts off real slow and then it'll pick up steam.
Yeah.
So maybe it's at that point where it's just going to start speeding up.
And also, I'm thinking about, because you're talking about how the magnetic poles affect your consciousness or affect your mind. Like people go crazy, full moon magnetic poles can affect your mindset. I'm not sure if it was in this video, but I know in that Spirit Science, I think it's in this video, but they would talk about consciousness shifts. And they say like every so many thousands of years, I know like 12,000 or whatever thousands of years, there's a consciousness shift that humanity goes through.
Right.
And this consciousness shift, it either propels us forward or we end up sliding backwards.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I'm just thinking, I'm taking that and I'm correlating it with the magnetic field driving people crazy. And here's this magnetic field shifting on us. So the magnetic field moving to a different spot and going from one permanent spot to another permanent spot could be that consciousness shift that's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think people should be made aware of it. I guess in the end, I wish people were more aware of it. So you'd be trying to figure out, almost like if you're in tune with your body, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
But if I don't know nothing about it, then when stuff starts going wrong, then I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I guess I better listen to this expert over here.
Right.
Yeah.
So they talked about Noah's Ark. They said the flood was caused by the pole shift, which of course we were talking about in these articles here with CNN and Yahoo. They speak about how climate changes because the magnetic field changes the climate.
Yeah.
So they said that was caused by the pole shift. Then they speak about Jesus, and they said when he came, they spoke about how Mary and Joseph. Yeah. Who's David? All right. Well, it don't matter. But Mary and Joseph, it talked about how they somehow maybe consciously did to bring Jesus.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. You would have to watch the video to understand what they were saying because I get lost in it. But when Jesus showed up, there's like 5 levels of your enlightenment, if you will. We're on level 1. We don't really know much. Then it's level 2, or maybe even 0. And then you move up, I guess, like degrees in black belts.
Yeah.
Jesus showed up. He was a level 2.
Oh, okay.
And he was going to lead us to Christ-like consciousness.
Yeah.
And if you ever watch, I don't know if you've ever listened to people like Buddhists talk about the enlightenment and stuff. It's pretty interesting. I've been to the one center here in Roanoke.
Yeah.
They talked about it. Just because I went there to learn about meditation, just like when I went over there to Transcendental Meditation. Now, I never did that.
Yeah.
Because it was like $500. But I would have probably had joined it just to teach me to meditate, because it's a real interesting thing. But a lot of times when it comes to the Buddhist thing, they're leading you to enlightenment. And that's to me, when someone says like Jesus leads you to God to get to heaven or whatever, so many of these religions, I guess Bill Maher had a documentary where pretty much they all run parallel with each other.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to discount one over the other, but
there's a lot, there are a lot of parallels and similarities.
Yes, there's a lot. So me getting to enlightenment that Buddha spoke of, would that be just me getting to that point in where I'm get to heaven?
Yeah.
Now everything's okay. I understand. No suffering, no death. No one's hungry, nothing. That's a big thing. But Jesus came here to show us. They said that, of course, when he went, you had what I talked about earlier in this video was he disappeared for 18 years. And they said what he did, he went to Tibet, because the reason Tibet monks are I guess they're spiritually enlightened or whatever, is because that wherever the magnetic north is usually where you can get the enlightenment from.
Yeah.
So if you're on that area, and at that point it was the Tibets, and Jesus went there and became a enlightened guru. So when he shows back up, now he understands what we were talking about, the Merkaba, where he was able to do the full, change the dimension and travel through the universe. He was able to rise up to, they saw him, he died, he resurrected, and then he was, because they talk about getting cut up and put back together.
Yeah.
Because they're, I was getting all twisted up there, but did you have something to say?
No.
Oh, okay. But they talked about he taught the Lord's Prayer is a geometric prayer meditation.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And that was the first time I ever paid attention to it. And
something to do with the rhythm of the words or the phrase or whatever. It's like,
so once again, it goes to the chakras.
Yeah.
Jesus was showing us to go through the chakras.
Yeah.
And it said if you go to livethepromise.net, I guess I should have put that on here, but if you go to livethepromise.net, you can learn more about it. And I had not went there yet. But I think that's kind of an interesting little thing. See, once again, everything is tied together.
Yeah.
and we should be trying to tie stuff together. Yeah, if we're flipping out, if you can, I guess almost like if you're getting mad, if someone comes up to you and tries to calm you down, maybe if you knew it was happening, you're able to control your anger.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Banner. The Mayans calendar was the most abundant. Abundance was the most advanced, it said.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wrote down that it pretty much, I guess there might have been more to it, but it talked about secret societies, that they weren't bad. They were just done because when people reach a certain level, the average Joe didn't get it.
Yeah.
So what churches did, and if you go through and you can find pamphlets, they're saying like the Masons are devil worshippers. If you get to level 33, you start to learn that they worship Satan and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is these secret societies were not so much that they were Satanists or what bad folks. They were more or less trying to I guess you would go hang out together because I wouldn't understand. Like, I remember there was a bunch of nukes on the sub.
Yeah.
And they made some joke about the reactor. And I had no clue how, I just had to sit there. But they were all laughing like it was the most funniest thing ever. And that was probably why they would have started a secret society, because I'm going to be the old guy, sitting there going, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
So, but that was the end of it, and pretty much. But once again, I thought it was it fit in today's world. I saw these two articles. Once again, let's pull them up.
And also one thing I like too is you talk about the article.
So you had this one, and like I said, this is all underneath. So anyone that wants to see,
because you got the Mars landing, and what do they keep saying? There were structures up there that look like pyramids that are in the same position as pyramids that are down here.
Yeah. So it was kind of strange to me. I just thought overall, I thought this little documentary, I would give it an easy A.
Yeah.
I was highly, it kept my attention. It made a lot of sense. It gave me some sources.
Yeah.
Is everything in it factually correct? Who knows? Probably someone could watch it and then just pick it apart. But when you look at like the poles shifting, if you look at what's going on today, we're having so much stuff happening where we're trying to pretend this is what this is and that's what that is, and we know it's not right.
Yeah.
But we're like trying to pretend that it is right. And then we had the anger and the hostility towards everyone. And it's because, to me, it just seems like it's more of a magnet. If the magnetics poles are shifting like this, maybe that's more what we need to do. And what in turn, I guess we need to start trying to get more into the pineal gland. Try to knock it off, because like they say stuff like, fluoride can put a case around it, stuff you eat.
Yeah.
So in turn, you want to maybe try to knock stuff out of your diet that maybe can help. Like I said, when I was able to bust into it, and like I said, once again, there's only twice that I could honestly sit here and go, you know what, I think I was able to experience a pineal gland experience.
Yeah.
Was one time at the float tank and one time at when I did yoga with the crew at American Legion.
Yeah.
And it was a strange thing, but I was running, I was yoga, I was really eating better. I had a lot of things going, and that's what's frustrating to me now. Is like, I wish I would have. If I would have stayed on that path, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to be wearing a robe or anything, having a freaking ponytail, bald-headed, bald-headed ponytail. But that's what we need to start telling people. And I should tell people about it, And then if you don't listen to me, okay,
well, it's
what
like,
am I supposed to do? I can't force. I guess I can force feed you, but you're not going to get to experience that next level.
Yeah, well, it's like the spirit science thing. When they open up their videos, they pretty much they just say, "Well, here's the information. You take from it what you will."
Right.
And just go from there. If you believe it, if you do, if you don't, you don't. But we're just going to present it to you.
Right.
And that's all you can do. Just present stuff to people. And then it's up to them.
Yeah. So what did you give the video? I gave it an A, but what would you give it?
Oh, well, just to keep it all even, I give it an A as well. No, literally, I give it an A because it's interesting and it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. And it makes you think. And my whole stance is, let's just say, even if you don't believe in any of it, it's still an entertaining enough video to watch, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, so, but yeah, so I thought it's interesting and it made me think.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And but once again, with the 2 articles I saw, I thought, wow, this was what an interesting video, because it finally it was stuff was connecting.
Yeah,
and I just think more people should be opening up they're trying to get in and try to figure stuff out, and you don't need drugs to do it.
No,
I think if you really, a lot of this stuff could be figured out, but we're not wanting to figure it out. As they said, the Martians gave us all this fine inventions, and we just get on there and just like scroll through Facebook and scroll
social media,
and then we look at the phones and play your video games, and we don't really talk to one another. But overall, that's what I wanted to do. This documentary on YouTube, once again, is on the description. It's the Human History movie from 12, I believe, from Spirit Science, and I would definitely check it out and share it with all your family and friends, so you'll be looked at like you're a nutcase, because you can say that this is gospel.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's it. Next week's documentary that we're going to talk about is, and hopefully I can. Well, I don't. It's not hopefully. I know I'll get Aaron Dutch will be here for it. It's going to be the other movie documentary that you recommended to me, was the sci-fi documentary. It's like 14 little parts about Image comic books.
Oh yeah, that thing.
It blows my mind. It pulls me back into when I was a kid, and but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to come over, because I'm going to start doing weekly doc watches. If it's on Netflix or YouTube or wherever, watch the documentary, then come and talk about it. But these are the two. But the sci-fi Image comic book, I can't remember what the whole title is, but it's so good. It pulled me in. And with the rapid decline of the comic book industry, sadly, it pulled me back to. And let me tell you something real quick. We got a few more minutes.
Okay.
But we saw, I was listening to Ron Bennington. He was interviewing Billy Crystal.
Okay.
And he talked about when he became friends with Mickey Mantle. And when Mickey Mantle died, it was like his childhood died.
Yeah.
And over the past few weeks, during our podcast, we've talked about like different movie theaters are dying.
Yeah.
Comic book stores are dying. Music stores are dying. Because I started thinking like, what would be the death where I would be like, my childhood that's officially dead, and I started thinking, I think it would probably would revolve back to around that stuff, like comic books. Like if I was to see comic books to become nothing, which I'm nervous about, I mean.
It's amazing. Comic books are just got to be for that discussion for us. How about comic book sales are down, but manga sales are up.
Right. So, well, I guess, music store, that would probably be the stuff where I would say that my childhood is, because it feels like, I can't experience going to the theater, going to the music store, whatever the case might be. But that's it. That's next week. It's going to be the sci-fi, and then after that, we'll figure out what it's going to be. But let's see. Finally, I guess we want to say thank you for, if you made it to the end, thank you very much for watching. Please go to Shaun's page, and you can click right there and make sure you subscribe to it and watch a video and comment on it. Tell them that you saw him right here on podcast, Potato Shop Podcast, Potato Shop PC. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell. Follow us all over instant social media, Instagram, Twitter. It's scrolling across right there on the bottom. So until next time, I'm Brian. That's Shaun. We'll see you later. Smile for the camera.